Hello students, welcome to zoology class. Today I am going to start a new topic, and that is the insects and human welfare. And under this topic I will be taking three things: lac, silk and honey. And today I will start with the first subtopic of this chapter, that is the lac. So what is lac? So lac is a natural commercial resin of animal origin. It is a secretion from a scale insect belonging to genus Lacifer as a hard protective covering around its body, and it has a reddish or dark brown color with a disagreeable smell. And the word lac is derived from the Sanskrit word which means 100,000, indicating the gregarious habit of this insect. So lac, it is produced from a small insect, and that small insect belongs to genus Lacifer, and lac is present as a hard protective covering around the body of the insect. And this lac, it is reddish or dark brown in color, and it has a very bad smell. And the word lac, it is derived from the Sanskrit word which means 100,000, means lakh. So why it is called lakh or lac? Because the insect lives in groups, so it indicates, or the name indicates, the gregarious habit of the insect. And it is commonly called as shellac, and in Nepal it is known as laha. So we call this resinous material as lac or lac, and commonly it is known as shellac, and in Nepali it is called as laha. And these insects are commercially exploited worldwide for the production of the lac, which has many uses or many industrial uses. And this insect which produces lac, that is the Lacifera laca in India, and it is a common lac insect in India. And lac is produced mainly in India, and it is also produced in Bangladesh and China. And India is the largest producer of the lac, and in Nepal also lac is produced. So these are the countries which produce the lac. So now you know that lac is a resin which is produced from the insect Lacifer, and the common Indian lac insect is the Lacifera laca, and lac is mainly produced in India, Bangladesh, Thailand, China and Nepal, and India is the largest producer of the lac. So now what is lac culture? So the culture of the lac insects using techniques for the procurement of the lac on the large scale is known as the lac culture. So when we produce lac for procurement on a large scale for using it in the industries, then that technique which is used to procure lac in large scale, that is known as the lac culture. And lac culture is done from the insect Lacifera laca, and previously this is also known as Tacardia laca, and now it is known as Tacardia laca, but previously its name was Lacifer laca. And it is a minute resinous crawling scale insect which inserts its proboscis into the plant tissues and sucks juices and grows and secretes lac from the hind end of the body and as a protective covering for its body. So how the lac is produced? So lac is produced by this insect. It inserts its mouth or the proboscis into the plant tissues and then sucks its juice, and then the insect grows, and then it secretes lac from the hind end of the body, that is at the back end of the body, and it rolls this secretion around its body, and it forms a protective covering for its body. And moreover, the insect is a parasite on the host plants, and the important trees on which the lac insects breed and thrive, they are kusum, and the botanical name of kusum is Chelicera ulisa, then palas, then ber, babool, khari, arhar, and people. So these are some of the host plants, and on these host plants, this Lacifera laca, it thrives and grows. So these are the host plants, and the quality of the lac depends on the quality of the host plant. It means that the lac insect, that is the Lacifera laca, it grows on these host plants, and then it secretes lac on those plants, and the quality of lac depends on the quality of the plant on which it grows. So this is about the lac culture. Then next comes the systematic position of the lac insect, that what is the classification of this lac insect. So Lacifera laca, it is the most important lac which produces lac, and it is of commercial importance, and its classification is, it belongs to phylum Arthropoda because it is an insect, then its class is Insecta, order is Hemiptera, then superfamily is Coccidae, then family is Laciferidae, and the genus is Lacifer, and the species is Laca. So this is the systematic classification of the Lacifera laca, which is the most popular lac insect in India. Next comes the life cycle of this Lacifera laca. So the female lac insect, it is responsible for large scale production of the lac, which is larger than the male lac insect, and after copulation the male insect dies and the female develops very rapidly after fertilization, and it lays about 200 to 500 eggs, and then eggs hatch into the larva after 6 weeks, and then mass emergence of larva from the egg in search of the host plant, it is known as swarming. So if we start its life cycle, I will tell you that the female lac insect is mainly responsible for the production of the lac, and the female lac insect is larger than the male lac insect. Why female lac insect is responsible for production of lac? Because after copulation, that after mating, the male insect dies and female develops rapidly after fertilization, then it lays about 200 to 500 eggs, then eggs hatch into the larva after 6 weeks time, and then larva are emerged, are the mass emergence of the larva from the egg, and then these larvae, they go in search of the host plant on which they can grow and thrive, and that mass emergence of larva from the egg and then going in for the search of the host plant, this is known as swarming. So what is swarming? Swarming is the mass emergence of larva from the eggs and then going in search of the host plant, it is known as swarming. Then it settles down on the host plant, and after settling on the host plant, the larvae start feeding continuously, and the secretion of the lac also starts simultaneously, and gradually the larva becomes fully covered by lac. So after settling down on the host plant, larvae, they start feeding continuously. They feed continuously on the host plant and they secrete lac also continuously and simultaneously, and gradually the larva covers its whole body with the lac. So lac is on the outside and the body of the larva is inside, surrounded by the lac. Then these larvae inside the lac, they mold in their respective cells, mean the chambers of the lac, and the shapes of the cells are different for male and female insects. Males are elongated, whereas the females are oval. So then inside the lac covering, these larvae moult and they develop either into male or into female insects, and the males are elongated and the females are oval. So then some insects are natural predators of the lac insects, and the caterpillars of these parasites feed upon lac insects, showing hyperparasitism. So now what happens that some of the lac insects, they are eaten by some other insects, and the caterpillars of other insects, they eat upon the lac insects, and this phenomena is known as hyperparasitism. So this is the diagram showing the life cycle of the lac plant. So this is the host plant on which this is the male and female insect. So this is the adult female and this is the adult male, and they fertilize on the host plant. Then after fertilization, egg laying happens, and then egg laying ends, and then from eggs larvae are hatched. So these larvae, they are again settled down on the host plant, and then here the lac is produced out surrounding their body, and again this process goes on. So this is the life cycle of the lac insects, that after fertilization eggs are laid and eggs hatch into larvae, and then larvae are free, and then they again go in search for another host, and then there they produce lac, and after liberation they again mold and they form the adult male and female, and again fertilization takes place. So this is the life cycle of the lac plant. Then comes the lac cultivation, that how lac is cultivated on the industrial scale. So lac cultivation, it is a complicated process, and so cultivators should know well about the inoculation, swarming period, and the harvesting of the lac. So the process of introducing lac insect on the host plant, it is known as the inoculation. That when artificially the lac insect is introduced on the host plant, that process is known as the inoculation. Then after before inoculation, pruning of the host plant is done. Pruning means that some branches are cut and then inoculation is done on the host plant. And twigs having brood lac, so the lac insect about 20 centimeter in length are attached to fresh host plants, and the lac insects then repeats its life cycle. When artificially the 20 centimeter in length lac insect is introduced on the host plant, then the lac insect starts its life cycle on the host plant, and the collection of the lac from the host plant is known as the harvesting. That after the lac has been secreted surrounding the body of the lac insect, then the lac has to be removed. This is known as the harvesting, and harvesting can be done before swarming or after swarming. And if the harvesting is done before swarming, then it is known as immature harvesting, and if it is done after swarming, then it is known as mature harvesting. And immature harvesting produces the lac, which is known as early lac, and the mature harvesting produces the mature lac. Then lac is cut from the host plant, which is then known as the stick lac. When the lac is cut from the host plant, at that condition lac is known as the stick lac, and the lac present on the twig is scraped and then collected, and then this lac is scraped and collected from the stick lac, and then this lac is grinded, and after grinding the unnecessary material like dust and fine particles they are removed, and then the resultant lac which is got, that is known as the seed lac, and this seed lac is then sun dried and then melted to produce shellac. So this is the process of cultivating lac from the lac plant. So now you know that what happens in lac cultivation, that the cultivator should have the knowledge of the inoculation, swarming period and harvesting. And first of all, the lac insect is introduced on the host plant. That process is known as the inoculation, and before inoculation, pruning of the host plant is done, and then the twigs having lac, they are introduced on the host plant, that is the insect is introduced on the host plant, and then lac insect on the host plant repeats the life cycle, and then after the lac has been secreted, then the collection of lac is done, and collection can be before swarming or after swarming, and if it is done before swarming, the lac which we get, that is known as the early lac, and if we get after the swarming, that is the mature lac. And when the twig of the plant with the lac is cut, that lac is known as a stick lac, and then from the stick lac, the lac is scraped and collected, then it is grinded, and after grinding, the unnecessary material is removed from the lac, and then that resultant lac is known as the seed lac. Then this seed lac is sun dried and melted to produce the lac which is known as shellac. So in this way, the cultivation of the lac is done. So the lac which we produce, its combination is like this, that lac is a mixture of many substances of which resin is the main constituent, and the quality of lac is dependent on the quality of the host plant, and the lac obtained from the insects is a complex substance, and it is made up of many things, like resin is up to 68 to 90%, dye, that is a colored material, is 2 to 10%, then wax is 5 to 6%, then mineral matter is 3 to 7%, and albuminous matter is 5 to 10%, and water is only 2 to 3%. So this is the composition of the lac which we get from the lac plant. So now what is the economic importance of the lac? So lac, which I told you, is the resinous compound of animal origin, and it has immense economic importance, and no doubt the development of many synthetic products has made its importance very less, but still it is included in many articles, and so lac has very much economic importance, and it has diverse uses, like lac is used in making toys, bracelets, sealing wax, then gramophone records and bangles, etc. Then it is used by jewelers and goldsmiths as a filling material in the hollow of the gold and silver ornaments, and it is in the form of shellac, and it is used as a furniture finish. So shellac is used as furniture finish in the form of the shellac type of the lac. Then waste material produced from this process of forming stick lac, that is used in dyeing purposes. And then nail polish is also a good example of the byproduct of the lac. So it is also used in nail polishes. Then the flute lac dye obtained by dissolving the crushed stick lac in water, that is known as alkata or alta. So if we dissolve this lac in water, and the colored material which we get, that is known as alta, and this alta is applied by Indian Hindu women on the hands and the sole of the feet. And from the stick lac, that is the twigs encrusted with lac, shellac is obtained after purification, and that shellac is used for coating for medicines also. So this is another use of the lac. And in Ayurveda, Siddha and Unani system of medicines, lac is used for the treatment of variety of diseases. So in Ayurveda, Unani and Siddha medicine system, lac is also used to cure many diseases. And in Ayurveda, lac is considered astringent, that is the ras or the taste. Then cool means virya or the potency. Then pungent means vipaka or the post-digestive effect. It balances pitta kapha dosh and it promotes strength. So it is used to treat many diseases. And in Unani system of medicines, lac is considered tonic for liver, stomach and intestine. So these are some of the uses of the lac, and this is the economic importance of the lac. So this is all about for lac, and so you have studied about the lac and which insect produces the lac, then how it is cultivated and what is its life cycle, and then what is the economic importance of the lac. So you have to go through this presentation, and if you have any doubts you can discuss it with me. Thank you.